Were you ever that 1 in 1 million? If so, what's your story? I was struck by lightning while talking on a landline. This was in the early 90s. Lightning struck the telephone line and traveled through the handset to my ear. My parents drove me to the ER. I couldn't talk very well. My brain knew what I wanted to say, but my mouth didn't want to say it. I had a terrible stutter. My doctor told me that I had had a dose of good old-fashioned electroshock therapy. My speech was normal the next day, but I get a terrible headache whenever a thunderstorm comes through. Edit, AskReddit Reddit 2. Thank you for the gold. I slept wrong one night and pinched a nerve in my neck so severely I lost the right side of my body. It just went silent like it wasn't there for months. I woke up in the worst pain I've ever experienced and couldn't talk, move or do anything. The ER doctor thought I was having a stroke. My doctor had never seen a case as severe as mine and it was purely a freak accident. Recovery took months, but I have use of my leg and hand again, with some numbness. Other than pain and spasms, I'm mostly back to normal. Not sure if this is a blessing or a curse, but I'm an extremely tall human. 7 feet 3, yes really. Not sure how rare that is. 1 in 1.6 million of being over 7 feet tall. 1 in 2 of being asked how's the weather up there. For my 7th birthday we went to Disneyland. They just happened to be having a car a day giveaway when we were there. For my 7th birthday, Mickey Mouse gave me a Pontiac Firebird. I have completely unexplained hearing loss in my left ear. I had a cyst in it when I was 6. And the surgery to remove it and fix the ear was successful when I was about 12. I woke up one morning with a killer headache and ear ringing. And after 3 days it went away and so did my hearing. Doctors did multiple examinations and an MRI and they said it should be totally functional. It just isn't. 1 in a million case. Edit, word of warning to new Redditors. Don't comment on a post before bed. I woke up and now I know what RIP my inbox means. Edit 2. Thanks you blugs for my first gold. I once guessed a 6-digit random combination on the first try. It was the only try I planned to give, as a kind of scratchpad whatever moment. Literally 1 in a million. My ex was struck by lightning several times and lived. Died in a car accident though. So not as lucky as he claimed to be. Being struck by lightning once isn't lucky. Being struck by lightning multiple times is lucky. I am allergic to the cold. Like literally. I get intense hives, swelling, I pass out, and throw up. Doesn't even have to be freezing. Below 45 degrees without a jacket and I can't do it. I have to carry an EpiPen with me in the event that I drink something too cold or have a severe reaction. Edit. Thank you kind stranger for my first silver. The first one I don't know about the exact odds. But I was born on the 7th of July 1977 and weighed 7 pounds and 7 ounces. Sadly though I clocked in at 6:50 am. The other is that around the age of 14 I started to notice the outsides of both of my feet starting to get much wider. After a couple of years of buying expensive custom made shoes they decided to perform surgery on my feet. Turned out I had extra muscle growth along with something else I don't recall at the moment. My podiatrist told me he submitted a scholarly article on it. May also have been genetic as when my dad was 3. He developed an extra toe growing out of each one of his big toes. When I was a teenager I had just started working at the local Sears Auto Center Express Lube shop and on day 1 did a quick orientation and my first oil change. The manager walked away when he felt I was good to go and the oil change went well. Fast forward a few days later my manager asked me to come into his office and he explained that the oil filter I had used had one huge flaw. I didn't know what that was and it turned out the filter was pressed on backwards into the filter can and it wouldn't allow oil to flow in and it damaged the motor. They had to purchase a new motor for the person and I still kept my job. He said it was a 1 in a million chance that would have happened and it did on my first oil change. Uterus ruptured into my bladder after birth of my youngest. It was 1 stroke 4 in. Away from a major artery. Nearly died. Wow. The human body sucks at giving birth : hope you're better now. Right? So many dead women throughout history from giving birth. I can understand the evolutionary forces behind that if the child didn't also die so often. I had 4 children. If it was not for RH shots and the ability of doctors to monitor the heart rate of the baby and induce contractions early if something is amiss, I would only have 1. Science is awesome. Human body sucks ass. This is my mum's story and I've posted it before, but she once called her friend back in the day on the air online, and another lady answered. My mum asks if her friend was there and the lady says sure, I'll get her. My mum's friend hops on the phone and asks how she knew she was here. Turns out my mum got a number wrong when dialing. Called a random house where someone was hosting a Tupperware party and my mum's friend just happened to be attending it. What are the odds of that sheet? I had AFM, acute flaccid myelitis, when I was really young. It's like weak polio if that makes sense. My legs struggled to keep me up and I was consistently collapsing. However, the disease wasn't discovered at the time, so I wasn't diagnosed. I was in and out of hospital several times a week, being tested for all sorts of bone cancers. When the disease was discovered, I matched every description of it perfectly. But now, I am running cross country and doing alright. No sure about the odds on this one, but I survived a non-survivable plane crash. I was on an old Po-2, famous for being very safe and uncrushable, on a tour of the desert in western China when I was like 7. My father's friend who hosted me and piloted the plane didn't survive, but somehow I got out with a concussion and apparently passed out for almost a day in the middle of the desert. In the wreckage of the crash, 50 kilometers from the town airport, on the edge of the desert. The people who found me were some tree planters. They plant greens in the desert to protect towns from sandstorm. A lot of people live in these desert towns in China do this. Found me on their way picking up a shipment. And the only reason they looked was BC they were making a bet on how fast the egg would cook in the sand and went off the road to test. Edit. First thing first. According to legends, 15 minutes. I never tested it though. So, according to my dads, the theory that I might have lived was because the plane was mostly made out of fabrics and wood. So when the plane crashed, the front half collapsed and took the majority of the impact. Though I got knocked out, I was probably covered under the wreckage and in the shades. It cooled me off enough to survive for a day or so. Got a rare but potentially deadly rash from a medication. I laughed when I first saw the bottle with the warning, and said knowing my luck I'd get it. I did. Ended up in a burn unit with my skin sloughing off. Not a fun week. Edit. Holy shit. Big response. It's been amazing to hear how many people have similar stories and are taking meds with high risk. And for those wondering what med, it was lamictal lamotrigine for me. I was on Tinder and was talking to this guy. He was supposed to meet me for dinner. I texted him and no answer. Then I texted him on Tinder. Said that he couldn't make it. However, I got a text back from the number. It wasn't the guy that I thought I texted. It was the actor Gerard Butler. I thought he was lying until he FaceTimed me. Nice guy. Edit. Well, I didn't think this post would blow up. First, I didn't go on a date with him instead. He lives on the west coast and I live on the east coast. I didn't keep his number because I respect his privacy. When he FaceTimed me he was super casual and asked me why I was using Tinder and he wished me luck on it. When I was a kid, I was chilling in the water of the Mediterranean Sea in Turkey. Suddenly I felt an awful burning sensation on my stomach and my legs. I looked like I had been brutally sandpapered and I got a 40° C, 104° F fever. Turns out I made contact with a jellyfish. And later found out that it hadn't happened on that beach for 10 years or so. I was just extremely unlucky. Not quite 1 in a million, but close enough. As a child, I had an extremely rare autoimmune disease. On top of having an extremely rare illness, I developed the rarer and most dangerous of the symptoms. My kidneys started shutting down. Most kids recover from this disease, but not always the ones with kidney issues. I was extremely lucky. I did not have to go on dialysis, and my kidneys eventually reached normal functioning levels. It took a decade to be completely cleared of the disease. My mother likes to call me a miracle child, not only because of this, but because she was not supposed to be able to have a kid due to health issues, and had several miscarriages before my stubbornness decided to be born. Weird sheet. Not quite 1 in a million, but it sure felt like it. When I graduated high school, I was offered a full-ride scholarship, entirely based on academic merit, to study the program I loved more than anything at the school I dreamed of going to for years. The school in question was notorious for giving very few scholarships, and the particular scholarship I won is awarded to very few students each year. I'm still pinching myself sometimes. Edit. Wow, my first silver. Thanks guys. I was kidnapped when leaving work and held for 18 months. Along with 2 other girls. The guy who took us claimed himself to be an ineffable lower god, and used cult tactics, manipulation and control to have us be his family. I was allowed to leave to the grocery store as an errand, but knew if I didn't come back the others would receive my punishment. I finally got away by stabbing my captor when I believed he was going to kill me. Edit. I did a podcast about the experience, and if you'd like to give it a listen, go check out whatwasthatlike.com. I am a 19-year-old male. In August of last year, I was driving with my sister, when suddenly her face turned cold. "Gavin, your eyes are yellow." I remember her saying. I quickly pulled down the passenger's mirror, and to my horror, 2 yellow eyes radiated back at me. Fast forward. I spent a month being sick. The initial diagnosis was hepatitis A. Went back to the doctor. Nothing was better. Things were worse, in fact. Was sent to the ER. Then to the liver transplant unit at UCSF. By this point my eyes had turned muddy orange, and my pee was the color of a mahogany tree. Anyways, the team of liver doctors at UCSF managed to save my liver. I was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis. Oh. And my eyes are white again. Dart. Born with Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. Had surgery at the age of 17. Many people don't have that diagnosis until they are old and grey. I had a freak accident that revealed it. Thanks everyone for the comments. After reading so many comments about people having WPW, or have a loved one with it, I'm now curious as to why there is no subreddit for it. It's apparent little is known about WPW. Too many. Bought $3 worth of Pong gonads at one of those games at the state fair. I think it was 10 gonads. And the grand prize is in the middle and you have to land it in a small glass container. I was having fun and just decided to throw it by flicking my wrist in a weird way. It bounced around for a while and landed right in the red glass container, which was the grand prize. Even the worker was surprised that I got it. Had to walk around the state fair with a giant charm and a plush toy after that. I was born 1 pound and 6 ounces in 1998. Doctor said I had like a 15% of surviving or something like that. They also said that if I did survive I would have been a vegetable. So months pass. Funny thing was I came out of the hospital on the day I was due. Came out in February, left the hospital in June. While I am still forming as a baby and it's 20 years later and I'm live and healthy. I can walk, talk and all the normal things. Only thing really wrong with me is my right eye is hanging on a thread cause of reasons and I'm socially autistic. I guess that's 1 in 1 million. My life. And not in the cliche OMG the sperm made it the egg kind of way. My father was married to somebody else and was officially missing and was last seen in the USA. My mother was a drug addict alcoholic living on the streets of the downtown east side of Vancouver. She was already pregnant according to the pee test she took. She smoked. She did drugs. She drank. She did God knows what else to get her hands on those things. Somehow, I was born underweight but with only mild FASD caused by all of that. I ended up in foster care, going in and out from 2-5 until becoming a ward of the province. I went on to get my bachelor's and have broken the cycle. My children have a safe home and food on the table. They know they are loved. Obligatory thanks for the gold edit. Thank you all for the support. I am trying to respond to everyone, but between my 3 comments on this thread I am getting overwhelmed. Every single time I get some kind of illness, every doctor I go to says they've never seen a case like mine before. Every ducking time. I'm really amused by the idea of you walking in with, like, a basic head cold and the doctor being baffled.